Hello and welcome to the season finale of Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host and voice of Tiger football, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me for the final time in his second season as head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, we'll get to all the hubbub later, but first let's celebrate what a game that was just this past weekend, a 47-7 victory over the University of the Cumberlands, a team that we haven't beat since 2014. In the last 20, we were 1-19. We got back on the winning side of things on the road and in great fashion.
Yeah, I did not know those stats you just told me, so that's really awesome. And again, just probably speaks to where our program's headed, and a lot of these things we said all year. This is the first time since 2017, 2014. We just had the best regular season in school history since 2003. Tied the best season. They've done it 4 times. And I'm very proud of the guys. I personally just had this feeling I don't think I've ever had as a head coach last week with all the uncertainty going into the week. And I said, well, the one thing I just really hope we do is go out and play well. Cumberland's was a lot better team than they showed Saturday, to be honest, a lot better than the record. Their previous game, they had taken Georgetown down to the wire and really had a great shot to win that game or minimum go to overtime. They beat Lindsay, who was a good team. They've played good football this year. They were really stout defensively, especially up front. They had the ability to really run the ball well. But our guys came out, and that was our best game. I mean, start to finish, it was so good to see our team finally put the 4 quarters together. We've had some great halves, some great quarters, some great moments, definitely throughout the year, even some really good games. But nobody, on our staff could have been more proud of our guys to go out. And, all week you could feel how bad the staff, wanted it for our guys. And then you could feel how bad our guys wanted it as well. And, to go out on their field, and they've got, great resources and, probably the most comparable to us in a lot of ways. We did a great job, and start to finish, just walked off that field. I know we'll talk about it, but just with a unique feeling, but really just at peace. And that was the big thing. Okay, we've done everything we can do today. However the cards fall, that's up to people sitting in a room. And, I was very proud of the guys, and just a big-time exclamation point on the regular season.
We could take a look at the box score and some of the big players in this one. Of course, a 47-7 victory on the road. Jagger Gillis with another standout game, 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. Andre Seiler saw a little bit of a rebirth from him. Haven't seen him in that capacity in quite some time. 6 catches, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And, of course, the senior transfer, Obi Wilson, 3 tackles, a tackle for loss, 2 picks, including a pick 6 there to pretty much start the second half. It was an absolute outpouring of offense. And, you kind of started off where you didn't get a blatant offsides call, and that could have kind of stunted the offense a little bit. But they kept their head up. Defense came out on the field, got their stop, and then they come out, and it really seemed like they hit their stride whenever Lopez dials up a fake punt, and he runs for 20 yards, and it was off to the races from there.
Yeah, there's a big momentum play. That's actually twice this season, once in the Cumberland, Tennessee game. Coach Atwood, kind of heads up our punt team. Obviously Coach Beatty being the special teams coordinator. And every game, he's like, we got to fake it. It's there, it's there. Well, as the head coach, the one that's pushing the button, you really wait for those perfect situations. It's great to have Alleen as the punter, who's actually a great athlete as well as a great punter. And that was a huge momentum play in the game. It was kind of cool to see the contrast in the season. So last year when we played Cumberland's, there was 2 blatant offsides penalties they didn't call, and we actually threw picks on both of them, and it really turned it into momentum the other way, and we never bounce back from that. So to see the growth and the maturity from our team to just handle that and say, man, not again, but you know what, let's move on and move forward. And like you said, all of the guys, that have just poured so much into this season since last January, and even since I've gotten here, like Dre, like Jagger, Obi, he joined us last spring, and he's had really probably an All-American season, and to see pretty much every guy out there on the field just be the best version of themselves, that's what we've been looking for all year, and just a complete game. And just, again, super happy for our guys. We probably couldn't say enough good things because all 3 phases of the game that we've worked so hard for really quick and all at the same time.
Be remiss if we didn't mention Luke Shepperson's game. Of course, 77 yards. He had a touchdown as well, also sets a program record for career yardage, takes over in that category from Dim Gibson, another great wide receiver here in Campbellsville. So just storied seasons for a lot of these guys, and you could hear it from our crowd. We were sitting over there in the bleachers broadcasting the game on our side, and guys like Luke Shepperson, Patrick Oden, whenever they scored touchdowns, it seemed like the crowd got a little bit more rowdy.
Yeah, some of these guys, and you mentioned like Luke and Pat specifically, and I think of Kel Hagan, even guys that unfortunately didn't get to play, Cade Kroom, C.A. Collin. These guys that have been in the program 4 or 5 years, been through some win seasons, been through a transition in coaches, which is never easy. Even last year, 4-6, and just felt like we left a little bit out there to really get rewarded for sticking it out in their hard work. You mentioned Luke. It was really cool to see personally for me because Demo was one of my receivers that he ended up having that career yards record. And we knew Luke was getting close. I think he set the catches record actually last week, and it kind of flew under the radar. And then, at halftime, somebody came and was like, he's 50 whatever yards away. He got a catch to start the second half. Well, then we kind of got ahead, and it was like, hey, we need to try to get Luke this record really fast. And, man, it just worked out perfect. Jagger found him, great throw, great catch. And I think he actually gets it like almost on the number. And so we're scrambling and saying, hey, did he get it? Did he not? Did he get it? So we're like, okay, well, let's just get him one more just to make sure. And obviously, anytime you just get Luke the ball, he's going to get some really good yards. And it was really cool to see his family celebrate. And like you said, you could hear the crowd kind of realizing the moment. And kind of a funny moment where he's trying to get the ball, and the referee's like, no, give me the ball. And then I think somebody kind of explained to him, and then they did give him the ball. And see his dad carrying the ball after the game. That's what it's all about, the pride these parents have in their, the young men. And, guys that have put so much into the program over 4 or 5 years, like Luke, Pat, and all those guys I mentioned. I'm most proud of those guys because they've had every reason an excuse to not stick it out, to pout, to give up, all those things. And, that's, again, one of the big reasons why we were really successful this year.
So you put a cap on this regular season here, and ends up being the end of your season, but the Tigers, number 21 in the poll, that's where they finished. They were just outside of making it, really, by all accounts, by all calculations. But nonetheless, an absolutely great season. Final thoughts on this regular season and your regular season game on the road at Cumberland's?
Well, as far as the game, everything we would want as a staff. Again, to have all 3 phases, to force turnovers and not turn over the ball, to get explosive plays and limit explosive plays, to play clean on special teams and create momentum plays on special teams, even though we had 2 kickoff returns. One of those was a big return. Actually, that was to start the game by Caden Thiemann. That was really cool to see. As far as the season, I put out a post last night, on social media, and just said this is a transformational season. I think this is the season we'll look back and say that's when Campbellsville football really started to garner that reputation, and those expectations and standards improved. Like, this is what it should be, can be, hopefully will be for a long time coming. And you mentioned finished 21 in the coaches poll. In the non-human polls is what I'll call them, the computer polls, we actually finished 12th and 15th in the 2 that the NAI are supposed to use, and we finished 13th in another one that's used by a lot of sports organizations around the world. And to me, I think that's where, with our resume and our season, we should have been about the 12th or 15th, maybe a bottom team. And so our conference was ranked the top conference in the nation by all 3 of those computer polls, right, which doesn't judge how you started, what your record was last year, what your name of your school is, how many times you've been there before. And, to finish solo second, like you said, in the best conference in NAI football, I mean, the only thing you could have wanted more was to find a way to win 1 or 2 more and get in the playoffs and still be playing this week. But couldn't be more proud of the momentum this is going to create in recruiting and moving forward into next season. It's going to be invaluable.
Well, we'll step away and give you a quick break. When we come back, we'll sit down with the defensive coordinator, Coach Jody Ford, here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Jason, let's go see your room.
How is it? Is it good? Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, but with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. And you can change the outcome. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host and voice of Tiger football, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me, the defensive coordinator for these Tigers, Coach Jody Ford. Coach Ford, so glad to have you in here, man. I can't think of anybody better for a season finale performance than you. Of course, we sit down and talk every time pre-game, talk a little bit about defense. We talk a little bit about life. We're down there quoting movies. It's all sorts of things going on down there. You're a great guy to hang around. So glad that you joined this staff, and we get to chop it up and talk football all the time.
Well, I love being here. I mean, you and the job that you do, and Khalil and you guys do a tremendous job. We're so lucky to have you with us and covering us. And, I love seeing you too at FCA. We do the Fellowship of Christian Athletes on Wednesday nights, and you're always there, and Khalil and all you guys. So I love you. I'm so glad you're part of, you guys are just like a part of the team. You might as well be on the travel bus with us. But thank you for the job you do. I'd definitely say you might want to change the title from Under Center to In the Gun or something, because we're very rarely under center unless we need like an inch or so like that.
That's true. That's true. You're always out of shotgun, of course. I don't know many times I've ever seen Gillis get under center like that, but ode to Jake Russell, of course, but he played a lot in shotgun as well. Say what you want about that, but let's talk about this defense, man. This defense was lights out almost all season long. I think they're somewhere, I didn't get the post this game season stats. I think probably somewhere around 16 interceptions for the year, at least 6 pick sixes that I know of. They flew around this secondary, felt like they just covered the field with their hair on fire.
Yeah, no, Coach Beatty does a great job back there, and Coach Atwood with the backers and stuff, and obviously Coach O with the pass rush and everything, and they do a tremendous job. Coach Gribbins helps me spot things from the box, and he does a great job with our linebackers and kind of what we call our hybrid positions and everything. And first I want to thank them because, you have 5 fingers on your hand, and you can't pick up anything without the 5 fingers. And I tell you, when you have Matt Atwood, Jeff Owens, Ryan Beatty, when you have Robbie Gribbins, and then also we had Mikhail Prater, Coach Russell's brother-in-law, that helped us too. Those 5 guys make my job really easy. In fact, when I'm missing stuff, they make sure I don't miss stuff. So I have nothing but great love for our coaching staff, and especially those defensive assistants, one of the best group I've ever had. Big reason, a huge reason why I think Coach Russell said we finished 6th in the nation on defense, which and a big tribute to the players too. I mean, we had some tremendous players to coach between Jaden Cray and Keelan Lamar, and I mean Ellis Reed and Cale Hagan and Noah Steen, and then you got Obi Wilson back there, and just it goes on and on. There's so many great players and so many guys that put in so much work when you think about Coach Lane, our offensive line coach, and the strength and conditioning that he did, dating all the way back to after spring ball to early morning in the summer. We had about 30 guys stay over the summer, and that made a huge difference. But going back to the defense, I mean, it was a really a fun year. I thought we got better and better as we went. Off our 4 and 6 season, we went back and we gave our players a Wechsler test, and we gave them a defensive test. And on the Wechsler test, they scored an average of 41%. On the defensive test, they scored an average of 47%. Big reason why we're 4 and 6. So we as defensive coaches, I just mentioned, we all went back to the lab and said, we've got to become more creative in our teaching and how we teach them this defense and how to play. And they went through the whole spring ball. They went through the whole summer, came back in the fall again in preseason, and they picked it up so well, understood the defense so well, understood football. The football IQ improved so much, and they played so much smarter this year, which allowed us to play very, very well. And now we're excited because now we can expand on that, where now guys know the playbook. Now what can you do inside the playbook? You look at Miles Butler, when he got an interception this year, he looks like he's blitzing and he drops off and picks it off. You look at CJ's Cutcliffe's interception on Saturday, he looks like he's blitzing, he drops off, picks it off. So things where you know how to stem and disguise, and that's something that we'll go into the offseason and spring, is now you know the defense. Now let's learn how to disguise the defense and be discreet about what we're doing. And that starts with our coaches and then trickles down to the players. But the players did an amazing job of busting their rear end to learn this stuff and have a football IQ, and went in and played very well this year. And I was really proud of how we stopped the run and controlled the pass, and we'll just continue to get better and better. But like I said, I'm very lucky to have great players, and I'm extremely lucky to have tremendous coaches around me as well.
I mean, this defensive line, I mean, you talk about run defense. This defense held teams that were rushing 200 yards a game, 180 yards a game. They held them to under 180s multiple times. They only allowed 80 yards. Of course, you know, season stats, you may look at it and you go, oh, well, they played non-rushing teams most of the time. They didn't. They played people that averaged 200 yards. They held guys like Darius Neal to, 85, 90 yards, which is a pretty good hold on that guy. He's as good as they come at the running back at the NAIA level. And, of course, you talk about these linebackers. You mentioned it, several of them. Of course, Ellis Reed, Cale Hagan, all of them. I've never seen a linebacking core that can go as east to west as this group can.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jeremiah Pauling, too. I mean, Jeremiah Pauling was a beast for us as well with Miles Butler, and Zamari Bell was great up until he got hurt in the middle of the season. I mean, we get some great guys back with Zamari off injury and Tyler Ballard coming back from injury, and Tyler Ballard put 2 quarterbacks out of the game his freshman year. We didn't even have him this year. So there's so many great players there, but they really took on the challenge every week. When you mentioned, like, guys, this running back or this quarterback or this whoever, this will be the best athlete on the field on Saturday. And anytime we would tell them that, they would get so angry, like, okay, we'll show you who the best players are on the field. And they love attacking that challenge. And I love that about our players, is how they love to take on a challenge. And when they see somebody great come into our stadium, or when we're getting ready to play somebody great, they love the idea of how can we shut those people down. And we're big on defense, trying to make you left-handed, like whoever your best players are, we want you to have to go somewhere else. And that's even in our 2 losses. The one thing I am proud of is it wasn't the best players beating us. We lost handle of a couple guys that we shouldn't have lost handle on. But that's areas where we'll get better too. But I do love that they did a great job taking the best players out of the game in a way. And you got to have really good players to do that. And those guys did a great job all year of doing that.
Coach, we appreciate you coming on. It was such a fun time to watch your defense fly around the field and kind of sit beside you. Hopefully you'll allow me to maybe step in a few times and see what you're watching in film in the planning room this time.
I would love that. Thank you for all you do, and thank you to all the fans. And we had great crowds this year and great support, and continue to have great support. And we're going to need it because this program's climbing, and this is not the expectation to be 9-2 and not be in the playoffs. The expectation is to win the conference, be in the playoffs, and win the national championship. And that's what we're working for and grinding for year in and year out. So this hopefully will be the worst team you ever see here. And I hope that there's nothing but great things. But thank you for your coverage. Thanks to all the fans, the school, the university for all the support. And we're blessed here at Campbellsville University. So thank you.
Certainly can't wait to see it. When we come back, we'll sit down with Coach Russell, talk about the upcoming offseason here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you
Welcome back to the final segment of Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host and voice of Tiger football, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me, head coach Jake Russell. Coach, let's talk about that post for a second, because there's some pretty interesting statistics there that you put in there, and I didn't want to butcher them, but the Tigers come up 7 wins by 13-plus points or more, 5 wins over teams that finished 500 or above. You finished solo second, like you mentioned, in the Mid-South Conference. And in terms of most improved teams in the nation, at its highest point by any of the computer ratings, you were 46. And then at the highest point in any of the computer ratings, you were up to 12. In the NAIA coaches poll, you were unranked, and you move up and you finish number 21.
Yep.
Now, of course, in that coaches poll, it's going to be difficult at times because a lot of it's one of those things when you're not in there, it's very hard to move up. And when you lose, it's very easy to drop out. And we saw that a couple times this season. It was very hard to rise. I think it was 6-0 before we finally got into that receiving votes category. And then the loss to Lindsey Wilson took us out, and then we had to battle our way back in. But nonetheless, I think starting next year, I think people are going to put a little bit more thought into Campbellsville being up there in those polls to start the season.
No doubt. And that's why this season, really has set us up for years to come to be in a position that if we get in again this year, we may get the benefit of the doubt. I told our team in our end of the year meeting yesterday, when you watched the show, as they said the team's name, they said how many years they had made the playoffs, and it was 20 or 8 or 12, 15, 6 in a row. And your team, maybe like Alabama football, seems to always get the benefit of the doubt, maybe Duke basketball or whoever it is. And we've got to start to build that reputation ourselves. We've had some great periods in our program's history, but as far as sustained, long-term, decade-long success, it's been hard to come by so far. And so when we start next year, hopefully in that 20 to 25 range, I would guess, we're going to get way more respect early. When you start 4-0 or 7-1 or whatever it is, you should be ranked a lot higher, not be bouncing up and down like we did a little bit this year. But as you mentioned, I think we were actually the most improved team in every single one of those 4 or 5 polls that I mentioned there. Some of those, being what people are voting on, some of those being the computer rankings, and that just proves a lot, from our guys. We were actually the most improved in one of those last year, even though we didn't quite have the season we wanted. And, we hope again next year we go from 20 or 25 and finish right up there at the top and hopefully are the most improved again. But, at the end of the day, the guys in our program, the guys in the room, I think the people in the conference, the people that actually watched our game know how good of a football team we actually were. And, we'll always be able to hang our hat on that. And, to go through an 11-game season, as you mentioned, to win 7 of our 9 wins by 13 points or more, we weren't just beating teams. We were really, playing good football, beating 5 teams above 500, a couple of really good teams that should be ranked. And then, another team we beat had 5 wins. We didn't, play or beat anybody in the NAIA that had less than 3 wins. So our schedule was super tough, and to go through that with that season is just a really special one that, we'll be looked back on for a long time as one of the best.
So the Tigers unable to make the NAIA playoffs. Victory Bowl is not going to happen this year, sadly. So no extracurricular here in terms of postseason football. So your off season starts. So take us through what you're going to be going through here in these next couple weeks and where you head in the off season. Yeah.
So obviously, the guys will be here through next Tuesday or Wednesday morning until they'll go for Thanksgiving break. So from now until then, we'll be doing one-on-one exit meetings. Each player will do one with their position coach, and then each guy will do one with myself as well. It's something I take a lot of pride in. It's been invaluable for us. A great example is last year, if 120 or 30 guys came in, probably 100 of them said, Coach, what we need the most is buy-in, for people to buy in, or if they're not bought in, to get out. And we used that phrase. It was on our shirts that we worked out in. We made them little poker chips that had buy-in on them. They carried all year. They put, in a bucket as they entered the weight room or entered the field or whatever it was, all the way since last January. And, we're going to get a lot of great feedback again this year. And then we also get to, kind of start investing and pouring in and re-recruiting our own roster. When you've only had one player leave your program in 2 seasons to go play football somewhere else, that's going to be really hard to do again. And as your guys play better, as your second and third string guys are capable starters at other schools, there may be more of that. And so we try to say, hey, one, if you have decided that, how can we help you continue on your journey, make sure you're set up to get that degree and do what you want to do. But also, hey, we see this vision for you. And then we hopefully our visions align and we keep everybody again, but that's really hard to do in college football. And so by next Tuesday when they leave for fall break, we'll have met with every single guy in the program. We'll have collected all the equipment, which is actually just a huge thing in itself, man. There's just so much gear and equipment that you don't realize. And then when we get back from Thanksgiving break, honestly, as a staff, it really turns into recruiting season. And, from the beginning of December, really until our guys get back in January, it's crazy because we're trying to add some mid-year guys, and it seems like there's, limitless people out there right now looking for a home. And then when we get our guys back in January, to me, is the most enjoyable part of the cycle for me is when you just, there's no pressure of a game on Saturday. There's no opponent. It's just making each individual guy try to really become the best version of themselves. Weight, speed, and agility, skill development, meetings, all these things. That's why this season was so special, that our team really did buy in all that work since January. And we got an off season. The first year here, we got in right at the end of spring. We didn't get that off season, and so I'm really looking forward to how much better can we get from January until the start of our season next year.
So you had one true freshman, I think, that played considerable snaps this year. Other than that, it was pretty much in a completely experienced team for the most part. You had, I believe, 25, 24, 26 seniors, somewhere in there. So, and you put a lot of focus on getting transfers from other NAIA schools to fill some of those slots, bring some extra experience in there. Is that kind of still the focus, especially with transfer portal becoming so big as it is, or are you still looking for that untapped potential at the high school level?
Both, yeah. So like you mentioned, out of our 40 or so freshmen that made it through the season, only one guy won't redshirt, and that was Justice, who gave us a great kind of spark off the bench at times as a quarterback, doing some great things in our offense. So we've got this awesome group of talented freshmen that now can use all this time in their first offseason as a college football player to hopefully come in by next August and be ready to go compete, in the best conference in NAIA and a great schedule that we're going to, get for those guys. And then we've also got some guys, that are redshirt freshmen now or redshirt sophomores that when you lose 24 seniors are going to step into big roles. In this spring, we're going to get to find out, are you really ready to thrive in this role and fill that big void left by Luke Shepperson, Kel Hagan, whoever you want to throw in there. And that's going to be exciting to see. We will obviously be aggressive in the transfer market. We really like to try to get guys here mid-year because then they get to go through the spring and see what's it really about here. What's the standard expectation, the work. When you come in August and you're playing a game 3 or 4 weeks later, and then it's like, oh man, I didn't realize what I was getting into. That can be a little bit tricky. But we had a lot of guys that did that this year and panned out really well and filled a little of those voids and provided some senior leadership that we really needed. So, and then obviously we're going to go attack the freshman market, our state of Kentucky, extremely hard, and then our big out-of-state areas, and hopefully build the best class in school history. I told our staff yesterday, everybody in this room is a much better recruiter today than you were this time last year. Why? Because we're coming off a 9-2 season. That's pretty easy to sell, and then you bring them to campus at Campbellsville, and that place sells itself. So we're super excited and think we're going to recruit even at a different level than we ever have here. Well,
Coach, congratulations on a heck of a regular season. It was an amazing one to watch. I think I speak for most of Tiger Nation here on that. 9-2, 4-2 in the Mid-South Conference. It was a great regular season. Best of luck in the off season, and can't wait to see you guys again next season.
Absolutely. Thanks, man, for everything you do.
Of course, no problem. The Tigers are done with their season. No Victory Bowl, no NAIA playoffs, sadly, but they do finish 9-2, 4-2 in the Mid-South Conference. And that would be the end of this show as well for Under Center with Jake Russell. Thank you for tuning in all of these weeks, and we hope to see you again next season on Under Center with Jake Russell.